Lexi Show, Fashion That Gives a Damn. This week I am joined by a designer known for creating beautiful, conscious pieces. Please join me in extending a warm welcome to Dell Scott. So, your designs are known for blending an elegant look with intention. What inspired you to start creating fashion that carries a deeper purpose?
Funny because it's so personal for me as it is for many designers, but I would have to say initially, as funny as it sounds, Barbie was my inspiration when it
I
came
love
to
that.
fashion. I could just sit and play with Barbies for endless hours, changing outfits. I would cut their hair, create new hairstyles, and that was really my foray into fashion outside of the fact that I had a mother who used to wear very high-end Halston, Gucci, and so I used to flip through Cosmo and Vogue, and that was really how it all started for me. But it became a little bit more personal as I was born with eczema. So, very sensitive skin condition. And, I remember many summers when I wouldn't even wear shorts because of all the physical scars and just being, very self-conscious. And I developed low self-esteem. And from that, fashion became a way of escape for me to a place that where I could create things. I could create what I felt was beautiful. And that's really how it all started for me. Initially, I started, doing styling, personal shopper service. I wasn't even designing when I first started, but I knew that it was something more to it. Like it wasn't enough. When I started designing, and I think just from the beginning concept to that finished design, I realized this is what it is for me. Ultimately, to create designs that were beautiful, that women could feel that they were beautiful in. I don't think there's anything more beautiful than, a woman, and especially in a formal design, and that's my niche, formal wear. We walk different when we wear a gown. We talk different. We carry ourselves different. So that's what designing is for me. It's creating a place that's beauty. It's creating a platform. Ultimately, what I've come to understand that it's in a sense a ministry, just empowering other women. So many of us deal with so many issues as women as to what we think is beautiful. And we have all the effects of, media and society and peer pressure as to how we should look. And
Mhm.
that's, I think design became that outlet for me to be able to create that escape, that place that was beautiful for all women.
That is so amazing. So amazing. And thank you for sharing your story. And I think that it's so important because I think that this is something that a lot of people deal with. And so being able to turn, something that you've experienced into, something so beautiful and
Yes.
amazing, I think is just so inspiring. So what inspired, I guess, is it similar things, but like the core values behind your brand?
For me, like I said,
Yeah.
creating it is kind of similar, definitely. I think what really made me grasp the concept that in a sense that it's a ministry to be able to empower other women.
Mm.
I'm just blessed to be able to do it through fashion. But I would get feedback from women, you know what? Oh my gosh, I wore that dress to that event last night, and that's the most beautiful I felt in a long time. Or I got all these compliments. So I think when I started getting feedback like that, I was just like, okay, you know what? This is what I'm called to do. I want to create designs that just accentuate the female shape. So just keeping that in mind when I design, I want women to feel sensual. I want them to feel beautiful. I want them to accentuate, they're definitely that feminine physique. So I think that was key for me in when I create designs for my brand. But ultimately, creating a brand that was definitely about luxury, that luxury lifestyle for women, luxury garments, garments that are hand constructed, great quality was very important for me. I didn't want to create something that I wouldn't wear myself.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I think that having these high quality things or something that or like seeing, brands focusing on high quality is so important because I think we're also seeing so many brands focus on really poor quality.
Yes.
Uh,
No, so true. I had garments pulled for a magazine. I had designs pulled for a magazine feature, and I remember one of the ladies said said, "Oh my gosh," she said, "these are great quality." She was like, "They're even lined." And it kind of shocked me because I'm like, "Wouldn't all the garments you pull lined?" She said, "No, I'm just looking at the stitching. I'm looking at the construction." She was like, "This is really good." She said, "It's like department store quality. I could see myself going in the store and buying this off the rack." So that made me feel really good. I try to always keep that in mind. A lot of times, when we do our shows, we're making sample garments, but I want those garments that if someone comes and expects those garments backstage, a potential buyer, that it is exactly as it would be if it was on the sale floor.
Yeah, that's I find it interesting that like she was so shocked
Yeah, I did too.
how how like high the quality was, and I'm like, this is n where we're going in the wrong direction, where it's like
Exactly,
we should
exactly.
expect these things
Like it's
to
a bit
be.
scary. It's almost like, well, what have you been receiving?
Yeah,
But
no, literally.
yeah, yeah,
Well, I think that, and I mean, you're so right when you say like, when we walk differently and we hold ourselves differently when we're wearing a piece,
yes,
is made well that we feel very confident in. And I always say, I'm like, fashion is like a psychology. Like there's a science behind it. It's not just like, oh, pretty clothes.
yeah,
It's that too. But like, I think how so many people that maybe aren't like directly involved in the fashion industry see it, where it's just like, oh, it's like trends and people are wearing like interesting things to fashion shows and I don't know. Um,
yeah. It's so much deeper than that. It,
it's
it
so much
really,
deeper than that.
really is.
Yeah.
You look at how different you feel if you were to throw a sweatsuit on versus a cocktail dress,
Yeah.
like I said, your whole mood changes. Or you think, we as women that day, we go to the salon, we get our hair done, or we get a manicure, how much better we feel.
Yeah.
Um, Fashion, it's so personal for every female as to what your particular style is. Or I know for me, I dress according to my mood. So that could be different,
Hmm.
at any given time. And I think that's why it's such a powerful medium in this world.
Yeah, no, completely. I mean, even like when you dress so like if you're in a bad mood and you're wearing these clothes that you would wear because you're in a bad mood, like I don't know, sweats or something. Maybe people wear that when they're in a good mood. That's great.
True.
Just as an example, maybe your bad mood clothes is sweats. But like if you then you'll tend to stay in that bad mood. But if would were to wear something that you would wear when you're usually in a good mood, when you're excited about your outfit,
Yes.
like it's literally proven to like make your mood better. And like I feel like it's like I see it so obvious when I'm like when I hate my outfit, I'm like
Yeah.
a different human being. Like I'm like, guys, I'm sorry, like I'm being mean today, but I really hate my outfit. So I just like
Yeah.
go change and I'll be different.
It's like something feels off. You
No,
just know. You
exactly.
just know. And when you wear something that you feel good in, that you like, you feel comfortable in, you get a little bit more pep in your step, a little bit more joy in
Exactly.
your spirit. So I totally get it.
Yeah, exactly. Can you share a moment in your career where when you realized that fashion could be used as a tool for change?
Well, I tell you, when it comes to sustainability and things of that nature, it was something that I always kind of wanted to tap into. And I just think for me, with it being formal wear, I was sourcing fabrics actually from all over, not just here in the US, but also overseas. So, and I wanted to maintain that high quality garment. And then also understanding that my brand represented luxury, I was like, how do I incorporate that?
Hmm.
Um, I know thrifting has become a big deal, and recycling fashion. I have a lot of friends who are stylists that thrift, and they come up with some phenomenal looks, but I was just like, how can I incorporate that in my brand? So that was always a struggle. So it was a great opportunity when I collaborated with Goodwill of this year. And it was actually just a month ago that we had the show, and they were like, hey, as a luxury designer, we kind of want to give a different take on upcycling for a lot of people who aren't into thrifting, or maybe they don't see how they could have a luxury garment by way, of thrifting or create something custom. Can you come on board for our upcoming fashion show and create a luxury, sustainable, and cohesive collection? So that was quite a challenge, but that was my first opportunity. So I was really excited to be able to do that. And I was a little bit nervous, definitely, as to whether, I was going to be up for the challenge. But from the feedback that we received during the show, after the show, it was just phenomenal. So I dare say, as they say, I got the memo.
That is so exciting. Congratulations. That's so amazing.
Thank you.
I think that that is a perfect partnership. I may or may not be biased because I do love Goodwill, but that is
Well,
awesome.
I think it was definitely a great fit because when you think Goodwill, you don't necessarily think luxury. That wouldn't be, the first word that comes to your mind. And even though, like I said, I have friends who are stylists, I've seen some of the outfits they put together. When you're thinking high-end luxury, like I said, that's not the first word that comes to your mind. So I was just like, how can I create a cohesive collection? Totally different experience because I'm used to dealing with raw fabric.
Hmm.
If I know I want black satin, then I just go get bolts of black satin. Or if I know I want tulle, or if I know I want sequins. That I think the challenge with that is, you're going into different locations and you're sourcing garments to deconstruct in order to create new garments. So you're working with whatever is there that day, different sizes. So you have to take all of that into consideration, when creating these new designs.
Yeah.
So I think that's where the challenge definitely occurred, but I was excited. It turned out great.
Yeah. I was just talking to someone who like does like the upcycling work and she was like, I think it's so amazing that you can like see a piece at a thrift store and be like, I'm gonna
Yes.
turn this piece into this gorgeous, stunning, amazing piece and be able to not only see the vision for it, but then also be able to actually execute it. Um,
Yes.
my sewing skills are subpar, so I'm like, anytime I see someone who's able to do that, I'm like, that is just so incredible. But she made an interesting point where she was like she just cuts up the fabric basically,
Hmm.
and she'll like if it's a t-shirt, she'll cut it up so that it's basically just fabric.
Yeah.
She like finds
Okay.
ways of working with that, and I was like, oh, that's actually really interesting. I've never thought of upcycling. I don't think like as that. I usually think of like how
Hmm.
can I alter this piece to be this piece rather than like how I'm using this piece specifically for the fabric.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, that's
Yeah.
interesting.
So there's different approaches, and it's amazing because I can look at a garment and see one thing versus she could look at it and see something totally different,
Mhm.
and we both create something that's unique and beautiful in its own right.
Oh my God, that would be like such an incredible content series is like both getting the same garment and then having two
Yeah.
pieces. Like I would love to see that be done. My little brain, I'm like, how can I market this? Yeah, but it's so interesting and I think it's really like I think sewing is such a vital skill to have, whether it's like the
Yes.
basics or being having this be your career. And I think a lot of people don't realize that all of our clothes are hand sewn, no matter where you're getting it from. There is a
Hmm.
person somewhere making those clothes.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people still think it's like machines. So I think it's just like always really important to talk about this side of things and show them the behind the scenes of making a garment because the more you talk about what goes into it, hopefully the more people learn to like really appreciate their pieces and keep them for longer and not be
No,
shocked.
I definitely agree. I watched a documentary on, the whole effect of quote unquote fast fashion and what it's doing to our environment. how it's affecting us, economically, environmentally. And it just kind of blew my mind. I don't think I had
Mhm.
any concept that it was as serious or as bad as it was when you're just looking at landfills like full of
Mhm.
clothes. And you're right. I think this project with Goodwill definitely made me take it a lot more serious and to be more conscious, of being eco-friendly, like how to recycle those pieces that we already have, kind of turn them into something new in a sense, by upcycling them.
Yeah.
So I think that's something that, we all have to play a part in.
Yeah. I always say I'm like, I know you might not think the fashion industry affects you, but if you are probably actively wearing clothes as you listen to this
Yeah.
podcast, it does. If
Yes.
you're
Yes.
all standing on this planet right now, it
Yes.
affects you. So you might not care about trends or designer brands or anything like that, but you should definitely care about how it affects the planet and how it affects ourself and our health and how it affects our garment workers and how it affects animals.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Definitely agree.
So I think something that is a little bit of like a misconception when it comes to like sustainability in the fashion industry, um, is that things are gonna be like made out of like grass and like dirt and like it's gonna be ugly. And I'm like, or it has to be like one pair of jeans and one white t-shirt and that's your whole wardrobe. And I'm like, I always want to shake people and be like, no, like there's so much more to like sustainability and even, focus
Yes.
on the fact that it's a high quality piece and you're gonna have it in your closet forever is inherently more sustainable than buying clothes from a fast fashion brand because it's gonna fall apart after one wear. So how do you kind of balance this, aspect of creativity with responsibility?
I think in being, like I said, in collaborating with Goodwill, it's definitely made me a lot more conscious.
Hmm.
Um, and there is actually a facility because I'm close to the Philadelphia area called Fab Scrap,
Oh,
and
yes.
I'm a part of FGI Philadelphia. We check out a lot of different venues, anything fashion related, whether it's fashion, beauty, anything in that whole arena. But like you were saying, most people think that it's grass or dirt or something like that. But I mean, it's tons of recycled fabrics that come through there. Sequins and satin and tulle, leather, just anything you could imagine that you could have at your fingertips in order to design. Naturally, my first train of thought wouldn't have been to go there, but now definitely from what I've experienced and like I said, being a part of this collaboration, that's something that's now on the forefront of my mind. Okay, with working on the next upcoming collection, how can I incorporate that,
Hmm.
in my collection, making note of that, whereas maybe I wasn't as conscious as doing that before. So I think that's something that all designers, eh, just making it a point to be more conscious. How can you incorporate that? Having that on the forefront. Yes, I know from the perspective of a creative, I know for me, a lot of times I may get the idea of, okay, this is the color the next collection is going to be, or this is the fabric I want to use. Okay, so once I've established that, because sometimes the direction of where I'm going with the next collection can come in a different way. Sometimes it's the color, sometimes it may be the fabric. Okay, well, now that I've established that, how can I put in that sustainability aspect?
Hmm.
How can this collection be more eco-friendly? So I think we just definitely have to make it a point to be intentional in being more conscious of those things.
Yeah, no, completely. I think everything is just like a mindset shift. Um,
Yes.
and even just the first step of being like, of having sustainability in mind and, learning what we can do to become more sustainable and then eventually like implementing
Yes.
things. Like all of those are like perfect steps, I feel like, where I'm like, even if you're thinking about it, if it's in the back of your head, if you have a little like Lexi angel on your shoulder being like, "Hey,
I
don't
like
buy
that. It's
that."
like that's, but like you said though, being conscious, that's the first step. The
Yeah.
fact that it's even there, the thought comes into your mind. Because
Yeah.
I'll be honest, for me in the past, that was not at the forefront of my mind. Yes, you would hear people say sustainability, you would hear people, but in creating the collection, I'm thinking, okay, this is the vision I have. I'm just going to execute it. But now, in being more mindful of that, I think that's definitely, like you said, the first step.
Yeah. Yeah. So important. On that note of, I guess, first steps, what do you think the biggest step that the fashion industry needs to make right now to make change?
Oh goodness. There's that's definitely a loaded question. There's so many things that are affecting the fashion industry right now. Yes, sustainability is important, but even now, especially with designers that may source some of their fabric from overseas, we're dealing with the impact of tariffs, having to navigate around that, supply chain issues, if you're not only just sourcing fabric from overseas, but if you have a manufacturer overseas, all of these things are affected. So I would say those are probably some of the biggest challenges that designers are dealing with right now,
Yeah.
especially if your garments, like I said, are being sourced or the fabric sourced or being made overseas. The whole concept of, integration of with AI in fashion alone is, a lot to grasp at this moment, and just trying to keep up with the ever-changing technology where that's concerned. And I think we have to find some way to continue to, whether it's to pivot or get a little bit more in line with the progression of all of this as designers, to be able to kind of stay on top, or stay in sync, rather, if you can't stay on top because there's so much going on, to be able to deal with these dynamics in fashion.
Yeah, no, completely. Yeah, I think it's really interesting because I work on the marketing team for a stable fashion company, and I'm like seeing the back end of like tariffs and how they're really affecting things is really
Yes.
something to, I feel like, see firsthand. And I know that I've talked to just like friends who have small businesses and things like that, and they're like, yeah, tariffs, dude. And so it's a time. It's a time to be alive in America.
Yeah,
Uh,
it's a lot. And the thing of it is probably first response is, okay, well, you're going to have to pass that cost off to the consumer. But even that ends up, causing slower spending, not only just because of the tariffs, but even before that kicked in. I know the luxury, segment took a hit. And I think what's happening, consumers they still want that luxury. They still want that lifestyle, but they're being, I would say, much more shrewd and making wiser decisions as to what they're buying, whether it's, firsthand or even secondhand when it comes to luxury. So just noticing trends and things like that and being aware of them. And but then as a designer, seeing what you can do, whether it's either adding another product line or maybe making some changes to be able to accommodate those spending habits
mhm.
or lack thereof.
Yeah, that is so interesting. I think we've talked about this a little bit in the beginning, but you've been a voice for empowerment through fashion. So what does confidence mean to you?
Confidence to me is, rather, when I think of confidence, I think of a woman, or rather a person, who is comfortable in their skin.
Hmm.
They know who they are, they know what they bring to the table. Like I said, we, especially as women, we can tend to deal with the physical insecurities and things like that that can bring on low self esteem, that can bring on lack of confidence. But I think even with some of those issues, because we all have them, whether, oh, I don't like the color of my hair, I don't like the way my hair is laying, I wish I had her full body hair, or I wish I had her waistline, or I wish I was as tall as her, whatever that is, that we're still comfortable in our skin. And I think also loving yourself. Definitely for me, in, like I said, being born with eczema, I didn't think I was beautiful. I didn't really love myself. I didn't have confidence. I didn't have high self-esteem. And it wasn't until I got much older, I would say probably closer to my 30s, believe it or not, that I realized that, you know what, the physical scars that cause mental scars for me, those physical scars on the outside didn't take away from the beauty that people said I possessed on the inside, or the beauty that I was able to create through my designs. So I would say that's what confidence means to me. Being able to be comfortable in your skin, love yourself despite of what you may feel as an insecurity or what you may feel as a flaw. I have a saying, I actually wrote a book called The Undiscovered Jewel, Realizing the Brilliance That Lies Within. And I have a saying in there that, you know what, you'll come to realize that your flaw is your draw. And that flaw is the one thing that will allow you to connect with people, that will allow your spirit to resonate with people and have an impact and an effect that maybe someone else won't have with them. But because they can relate to you, it'll definitely impact the universe and those around you.
Mm-hmm. I love that. I think that is so beautiful and so important. And just what you said about like, your beauty on the inside has never changed no matter what happened. And I think that's like the most important thing at the end of the day. Um,
Yeah.
but I think it's so important for anybody to hear just your journey and these amazing tips because I mean confidence, especially when we're talking about the fashion industry, like I feel like the fashion industry hasn't necessarily always helped with that confidence aspect. Wasn't always the most inclusive space. And so
No, I definitely agree. But I'm
yeah.
that girl. I'll mix polka dots with stripes. My
Yes.
husband tells me all the time. He's like, I would have never thought to put that together. And I'm like, well, that's how I'm feeling today. And I pull
No,
it together pretty
that's the
darn
best.
good.
I'm obsessed. I'm obsessed. I love it. I do the same. And my like thing is like one person, if I'm walking out and I don't get at least like one weird look from someone, then I know that my outfit's not like eating. Like I need
Yeah.
to get like dirty looks. I need people to like not really understand it, and I need it to be
Yes.
somewhat confusing and maybe could be considered ugly. And that's how I know it's a good outfit. Like,
Yeah.
but I
It's
truly,
that's why I said it. Fashion is such a powerful medium.
yeah,
We can express how we feel, and whether how we feel at that moment, or whatever's going on in our life. And if we feel differently, we can make ourselves by what we wear come out of that mood. Our attitude can change. It can be a conversation starter. Fashion can be so many different things to so
yeah.
many different people, and I think that's the beauty of it.
No, exactly. I feel like when I first like started my podcast, like the first few episodes, I talked so much about that, and I was like, and this was like, oh gosh, 5 years ago at this point, I don't even know. And I would talk about how like I find it so interesting that people will like find a niche and group themselves into that niche. And I'm like, that's great if that's like what you feel the most confident in. If every day you want to dress in all black or all pink or like whatever, like
Yeah.
that is great if that's your calling. But I think it's like you're the only person putting yourself in that box and you're so fine to like go out and try new things and be
Yes.
adventurous. And so like that's always been my thing is I'm like I when I wouldn't say like my style is one thing. Like if you were to
Hmm.
ask me like how I would describe my style, I would be like, I every word in the English dictionary. I don't know. Like like I don't know. It's like everything. Like I don't know. And so I think it's just like pulling aspects of different things.
Yes.
And my big thing, I think, is like falling in love with individual pieces.
Yes.
And that's how I really found my personal style was like when I would go to the thrift stores, I would like, sift through these things, these places, these racks that they were not like one specific,
Hmm.
you know, style. Like if you go to like a, store in the mall, they're gonna have like a lot of trends and stuff. But like going
Yes.
to a thrift store, you have no idea what you're getting into. And
I
so
think that's the beauty of it, though.
exactly.
It's almost like if you think of like Pandora's box, I don't know what I'm gonna open up and find today.
Yeah.
When I go in there. But like you said, that's the beauty of fashion. It can become an extension, a
Mhm.
true extension of our personality. And it doesn't have to be one specific thing or one specific way. I may want to have floral print on tomorrow, and after that, I may want polka dots. And then the next day, I could want a pantsuit. I have a thing for pantsuits. I
Love.
love a pantsuit with a heel. And then the day after that, I may want to have on I call it kind of my matrix looks. I have this long leather coat with all this graffiti on it, and I wear a black jumpsuit with black combat boots. So
I love it
I think that's the beauty of it. We can switch up and really be anything that we want to be, or just an extension of who we already are.
completely. And I think nowadays we're seeing so many people, I think we're getting pushed so many trends on social
Yes.
media and then by these fast fashion brands that are really focusing on that. And I'll see so many people kind of dressing solely based on those trends. And I feel like that's their
Yeah.
style is like whatever's on trend, which they look amazing. No judgment here. But but I feel like it's like my favorite compliment to receive is when someone like picks something up and they're like, "This is so you, Lexi." And I'm like, "Wow, thank you. I feel
Yeah.
perceived in the best way."
Yeah.
And so I feel like we're kind of losing that aspect though of like the like personal style thing and being able to be like, well, this is very this person versus this person because so much of it is like just trends nowadays. And so I think remembering and going back and focusing on those pieces that we just truly, really love. And we got it because not necessarily because it was on trend, but because
Yes.
we love it and we're going to have it forever, which then goes back to the buying things, that are high quality so that
Exactly.
we can have it forever.
Exactly. And I think that, we talked about being conscious when it comes to sustainability and things like that. But also being conscious and what? A lot of times people say, oh, well, I don't know what to wear. Or, oh, I don't have any style. Just putting some thought into it. If you
Mhm.
think of just who you are as a person, whether you have that fun and flirty personality, if you have that chic personality, or, whatever it is for you, and just not being afraid or wondering what someone else is going to think, or is this in trend? Like I never think like that when I dress. Is this in trend? I have pieces in my wardrobe for that I've had over 10 years, 15 years. And some of them weren't even, I would say, really expensive pieces. I just took really good care of them. But and then I just create a couple of different looks from that one piece because it just has a sentimental value and it's something that I really like, that's in my wardrobe. So I think just being conscious, putting some thought into, or for some women, maybe not putting a lot of thought into and just kind of going with the flow, so to speak, but not just focusing on, oh, that's a trend. I'm just going to wear that. That's a trend. I think I'll just wear that. There's nothing wrong with incorporating some trendy things in your wardrobe, but I do believe there's also some basic staples that every woman should have in her wardrobe that kind of works for everybody. But really just taking that trend and making your own, maybe adding one other piece, taking away something, tweaking it a little bit so that when people see it, it screams you.
Mm-hmm. Completely. I say that exact thing a lot where I'm like, trends are great. Like trends have been around from forever. They're in every industry. It's not just a fashion industry thing. Like trends are always going to be there. They are what drives
Yes.
a lot of industries, but also specifically the fashion industry. But I think the thing with trends is, first of all, they constantly repeat each other. Like a lot of the
Yes.
trends we were seeing this year are trends that we saw a few years ago and then a few years before that, and then a few years before that. But I think so much of our fashion nowadays is like the all trend outfits or whatever. And I'm like,
Yeah.
exactly what you said, where it's like finding your personal style and then incorporating a trend into something maybe that like you already are wearing, but adding that aspect to make it, a little bit more of the times or whatever.
Yeah.
Um, and so I remember the example I feel like I always use is like bows were like all the rage last summer, I feel like. I
Hmm.
feel like just like a while. And I remember seeing so many things being pushed out to people with bows on them. And I was like, guys, like, we don't need to buy this new piece that has bows sewn onto it. I will give you ribbon. Like, I have so much ribbon. Let's just all have a little craft stay. And so I took this blazer that I would wear all the time, and it was just like, a classic blazer. And I was going to this event and I wanted to spice it up a little, and I just safety pinned a whole bunch of bows made out of ribbon that I already had in my house on
Oh, wow.
my blazer. And people were like, "Oh my God, Lexi, this is the coolest blazer I've ever seen." And I was like, "Thank you." It's actually just like a literal normal blazer that I thrifted and I put some bows on it. And the craziest thing is when I go home, I'm gonna unsafety pin all these bows and I'm gonna wear the blazer again.
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
so I think it's like that was such an easy DIY and an easy way of incorporating something that was already a good staple in my closet
Yes.
and making it more of that trend. Um, so
I love it.
I encourage everyone to do a little DIYing. Never hurt nobody. Awesome. Well, I know we gave a few tips, but I always do like to end my podcast by asking what are your top tips for someone who is starting their journey to a more sustainable lifestyle?
Oh, wow. I would say probably number one, run to your closet.
Yes.
And I think a lot of people, when you think of, they're like, oh, that's last season. Oh, I've had that a little bit long. I can get rid of that. And I would say just take that time, go through your closet. A lot of those things I would dare say that we get rid of or we kind of just pass over, you can still incorporate into next season. A lot of collections that come out now are basically seasonless. It's not necessarily, unless depending on the material, it can't necessarily go into the next season. It could be a blouse or a top that you could layer under a jacket or something, a new jacket where you're not buying a whole new complete wardrobe. But I would say definitely yes. Go to your closet, take inventory of what you have. Start doing that, being a little bit more conscious. Again, that word of what you have, what you could possibly recycle. I could kick myself a couple times, probably more than a couple, where I have gotten rid of stuff. And then within a year,
Mm,
I'm thinking about that piece and I'm like,
it's the worst.
wish I had that right now
That is the
somewhere.
worst.
I just had that moment probably about a week ago, and I'm just like,
No.
oh, I wish I kept it because I'm thinking, oh, I don't have use for that anymore. I've worn it so many times. But like I said, if you're not sure, hold on to it.
Hmm.
I know a lot of times we as women we hold on to stuff because it might be something we haven't been able to fit in a while, but not necessarily just that. But hold on to it because it could be something that could be recycled. It could be something where maybe you could take the sleeves off and create a sleeveless top. There's so many different things. And I think once your eyes become opened to the whole thought of recycling, upcycling, and you start to do it, I think it's almost like you'll go in that closet and see a whole new complete wardrobe than what you ever saw before. So I would say there, go to your closet for people who aren't used to going to thrift shops. That's not their forte. Just take a stroll in there. Take a stroll. I know there's a few outside of Goodwill, there's a few great places in my area that people frequent. And believe it or not, I have a son. I would have never probably called it, but he's a thrifter. He actually came by the other day and I mean, he looks for certain items. He
Hmm.
was like, Mom, you won't believe it. I've been looking for this Nike track suit. He had bought it in black, wanted it in a different color. It was sold out. He was never able to get it. He said, I went in there and I saw the jacket and they only
Ugh,
had it for $25. He was like, I just
the
had to get it.
best.
And it's in mint condition. And I
The
mean, this
best.
kid's face was lit up like this made his day.
That is
And like I
100%.
said, I wouldn't have pictured my son to be a thrifter, but he is. So, I think just opening up that mindset to something new, a whole new experience. I know for me, when I went in and I was sourcing garments for the show, I'm coming across a lot of those items in there. They still had tags on them. They had never been worn. So I think that's kind of a testament to, really the impact of fast fashion that we're just buying, a lot of us, so
Yeah.
much that we're not even getting the chance to wear it. A lot of us may not even realize that we even have it still in our closet because we are buying so much. And here it is, you find it pushed in the back of the closet. It's been there for 6, 7 months. You never got an opportunity to wear it. So, yes, go to your closet, just take a stroll in the thrift shop. You'd be amazed at what you would find.
Yeah. I think that's like honestly, because I'll talk to people a lot who I'm like a huge thrifter, and so I always am encouraging people to thrift. But I feel like I get asked a lot, like I'm like, where do I start with thrifting? Like it's like you walk into a Goodwill and it's overstimulating, and I'm like, that's such a fair point. And I do genuinely think just taking a stroll through and like you don't have to go stand there and like sift through everything. Like
Yes.
just walking through is such a great tip. Because like you'll
Hmm.
start there and you'll just see and maybe you stumble upon something
Exactly.
and then you're like, oh wait, you're like I feel like your confidence starts to grow the more and more you thrift. Uh,
Yeah.
I remember I've always loved thrifting and I've been doing it for so long. I don't really remember. I think one of the first times I walked into a thrift store, I went with my mom and we were like, I was really young and we were like, again, like not sure where to start. I think it
Hmm.
might have gone to like the worst thrift store to pick because it was ginormous. Like it was literally the biggest thrift store I have ever been to, still to this day, biggest thrift store. And so we were both like, oh, like where do we start? Um,
Definitely overwhelmed.
yeah. But like then I just went back and I went back and like I definitely remember the first time I went to like the Goodwill bins where you have to like go in and it's like they'll have the store and then anything that
Hmm.
doesn't get sold, they put it into bins and they like you go and it's very intense.
Oh
Um
boy, I haven't had that experience
it's
yet. Oh my
very
goodness.
intense. It's very intense. And the first time I went, I think I was drastically unprepared. And this is in college, so I'm like, I distinctly remember it. And I was like, okay, now I understand what it's like when I send people off to a thrift store and they're like, Lexi, I don't know where to start. Because I was
Oh my
always like, what do
goodness.
you mean? Like, it's thrifting, it's the best. I do it every day. I love to go to the thrift store. Um,
Yeah.
and I was always like, what do you mean? And then the first time I went to the Goodwill bins, I was like, oh God, this is what people are asking me questions about. It is still, I've been to the bins multiple times and it's still a very crazy experience. Um, but it's a lot of fun too. I
But then you'll find that one item. It's like the
yeah.
diamond in the rough,
And you're like,
that
this is
jewel, and you'll be
everything's
like, it
worth
was all worth it.
it. Everything's worth it.
Yeah.
And that's like the best. Those stories where it's like I had an experience where I had bought these shoes that it wasn't a physical thrift store. I bought them at on like Depop, a secondhand like app. And I
Hmm.
had bought the shoes originally from this brand and they got lost in the mail and I was so sad. And I was like they were perfect because they were like already sustainable shoes, but they were
Oh, wow.
hot commodity and so they were like
Hmm.
completely sold out and they didn't know when they were going to like come back in stock. And I bought them because I was like, okay, like I really want them and I've been looking at them for months. And I bought them and then they sold out and then my thing got lost in the mail and I was like, you
Oh, no.
kidding me? Like, I finally ripped off the Band-Aid. I've been thinking about this purchase for a long time, and I was like, I'll do it. I really want it. And I bought them, and then they get lost in the mail, and I'm like emailing them, and I'm like, oh, like, when do you think you'll get more? And they're like, I'm sorry, we don't know. I was like, no. And I go on Depop one day, and I'm just scrolling, and it wasn't even like, it was like really far down in the list of things that were like maybe recommended to me. And I saw it
Hmm.
and it was in my size and it was the shoes that were sold out and I was like, "Oh my God, the thrift gods are on my side." I have never been happier. So not only now are they sustainable shoes, but they're sustainable shoes that I got off Depop. So sustainable of me. And I found them and they were sold out. And I even got them for cheaper because someone was reselling them. Uh,
Oh, wow.
wow, thrift gods were on my side. So those are the best
Yeah,
stories.
I know that feeling. It was a pair of boots, knee-high boots that had jewels encrusted over all of them. I think it was actually like a Kara brand. I think it was. I saw
Yeah.
them on there and I just fell in love with these boots. They didn't have my size. And I remember calling as you did. And I'm like, are you going to get them back in? They were like, we don't know. And there was not a store close by either. So that option wasn't going to work. Here it is. I'm going through the motions of how I can get these boots.
Yeah.
And I must have looked off and on. I put in the alert. If my size comes in, they'll email me. And I must have been looking for these boots for a couple weeks. I finally just put it down, and then one night I woke up in the middle of the night, I kid you not, could not sleep, picked up my phone, and I'm just on there scrolling at 2 in the morning. I decided to go on there and they had them in my size. And I'm
It's
like,
the
I'm
best.
placing this order right now.
It's the best.
So
Yeah,
I
never
know
made
that
a
feeling
purchase
of
faster.
joy.
It's like
I know that
literally,
feeling of joy all too well.
yeah, exactly. Like the sheer happiness. My other favorite story,
Yes.
my mom was texting me and my brother for like months about this teapot that she wanted. Do you know the
Mm,
company Mackenzie Childs? She like hand paints all of these teapots and they're gorgeous, but because they're hand painted, they're a little bit more expensive.
mm-hmm,
And so
mm-hmm.
she was texting me and my brother, and she was like, Mother's Day, Mother's Day. This is what I want. Mother's Day for months, literally
That
months.
sounds like me with
Yeah.
my.
She's like, hey, don't forget. This is what I want. I was like, okay, cool, we got it. And I was like, okay, it was like so random. Like I was laying in bed, I had just woken up on like a Saturday morning or something, and I always every weekend, like no, even if I really plan on going or not, but I always look at like estatesales.net where they put up
Mhm.
estate sales near you.
Yes.
And I was just scrolling on it, and for whatever reason, I was like, I scrolled to this one in this area that I like usually never go to estate sales in. Like usually I stick a little closer to where I live in the Los Angeles area, and this one was like
Mm-hmm.
way further down, like not where I live, not never been to an estate sale there.
Wow.
But I checked it out just in case, because who knows? And I was looking at this listing, and I was like, okay, it's like nothing I would really want, nothing I need. A lot of like homeware stuff, and I was like, I don't need that. And the last photo on the listing was not only the teapot, but an entire set from this brand.
Oh my
So it was
gosh.
like cups, like saucers, the teapot, a whole bunch of other stuff. And I was like, this was the second day of the estate sale. It was like had started at like I don't even know 8 in the morning, and I it was like 10 at this point, and I was like, there's no way that these are still here. And I was like, I'm not gonna go, I'm not gonna go. And then I like had this like sheer like panic run over me where I was like, well, what if it is there and I miss it? And like and so I like
It's
get out
like
of
you don't
bed.
know if you don't go.
Yeah, I like get out of bed. I'm like scrambling. I'm running. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go and I'm just gonna see. And I get there and it's literally the first thing I see when I walk into this estate sale. And it was funny because my mom had called me and she while I was on driving over to the estate sale, and she was like, "Hey, like, what are you doing today?" And I was like, "I'm going to an estate sale. There was something really cool that I saw." And she was like, "Oh, what was it?" And I was like, I'm not going to tell you yet unless it's there. I will let you know if I get this thing. And she was like, okay. And so I I get it and I like pay and I whatever and I get into my car and I FaceTime my mom and I'm like, you're never gonna believe it, girl. And I show her the teapot and she's like, oh
Oh my
my God.
God. I
And
can't
then I
even
show her the
imagine
whole
her
set.
response.
Yeah, she was like, Lexi, like what the heck? I think I paid $75 for this entire set of things.
Oh my goodness.
One of the teapots is like $200.
You
So
hit the
like
jackpot.
I
And
hit
she
the
got the Mother's
jackpot.
Day gift of the century
Yes,
there.
literally, and a fun story to go along with it. And so it was
Yes.
perfect. And I was like, again, the thrift gods, they're on our side. But I just love hearing stories like that. They're like my favorite.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, tell me more. Uh,
And I had my husband drive me almost 2 hours for for a table
and
that
yeah,
I
as
wanted.
you should.
He's like, there's no other place we can get this from closer. And I'm like, no.
No.
I said, they're holding it for me. We need to go on your day off.
Wait, too funny because I also made my boyfriend drive 2 hours for a chair. Um, and they were also holding it for me. But the worst thing was that it was his day off and it wasn't mine. So I just made him drive by himself.
Oh, no.
He was so sweet about it. He was like, "Yeah, sure, I'll go." But he drove 2 hours there, 2 hours back, just
Yeah.
like chair. And I was like, "Okay, you can get Best Boyfriend Award," and it's literally the chair I'm actively sitting on. So it was worth it.
People don't know how serious this thing is
Yes,
that we have here.
we
When you
take
have
this
a love
serious.
for it, the time distance does not separate
Does
you.
not. No, when you need something, you need it. Well,
That's right.
thank you so much. This was so amazing, and you are amazing. Where can people find you on social media or anywhere else?
Yes, thank you for having me. I've so enjoyed being on the show. I can be reached my website, dellscottcollection.com, or by email, info@dellscottcollection.com, and also on social media, on Instagram at Dell Scott Collection.
Amazing. While you're at it, you can follow me on my socials. My Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube are all my name at Lexi Silversing. That's Lexy, so like the color Stein. And remember to live a good life and look fucking good doing it.